we're good? Okay, let's go ahead and do a roll call. And I guess do you want to call off names or just have people say their names?
Just say your name, that's
Okay.
fine.
Why don't you start since you're on the end?
Doug DeHart.
Brian Boyce.
Ginger Redlinger.
Richard Craven.
Okay, so we have a quorum of 4 people, so we can
Thank
go
you.
ahead and approve things as necessary. And there's no citizens, so there's no citizens' comment. And do we have minutes available here?
Well, excuse me just a second
Yeah.
here. One point of order. Aren't we in a work session?
We're in a, yeah.
From 7
Oh, yeah, we're going to do the work session first.
The work session.
I jumped ahead, sorry.
And are your screens showing anything?
No.
Okay.
Let me switch the other direction and see.
You're good.
I have the work
Oh,
session.
that turned it off.
That's right up
You
there.
got, yeah, same thing? Okay.
Agenda, there we go. I don't know
Oh,
if
wait,
that-
for some reason it's in the
Oh.
wrong order here, so go to work plan at the bottom.
And
Yeah.
there's a document.
No, it's the same document.
The same documents are listed
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
twice on the
Got it.
agenda.
Okay, so if you wish,
good.
you can take a look at the document. And this is the recommendation that I opened. And then there's the draft goals itself. So there's 2 documents that you can jump back and forth between.
Okay. So at the last meeting, Tony was with us, and we looked through the template that we all had developed, and then went through some discussion about that, and what we've formulated out of that is a draft of 6 goals. And the idea behind these was that we would not put in the work plan things that were ongoing activities that we all were already doing based on our amended bylaws, but that things that were achievable in the next year or 2, and aligning those with the city commission's goals and priorities. So, Tony, do you want to?
I guess I was just trying to capture, some of the discussion. I realized that there were some new ideas brought forward that there may not have been consensus on. So this is really, we were trying to just capture what we had heard and try and formalize this more like goals, realizing that there is a work plan behind every one of these that still need, that we will accomplish. But trying to streamline this, make it a little bit cleaner, a little easier to read and move forward. So. This is my first whack at it, so I just tried to put something together based on kind of what I was hearing, just for the discussion, then for you guys to make that decision of if you want to use this type of format, you don't want it, or how you need to change it.
Yeah, I thought that, we had a set of goals that we've just recently adopted, and most of these fit in fairly well with those previous goals. And that's a good thing, because I think we need to use the structure that we've recently approved. And like the first 2 goals fit real well within the citizen involvement category that we had as our first goal originally. And, and so on down the list. The only one that I was uncertain how it fit exactly into the previously defined goals was the very last one. But I think that you could make a case that it fit into a couple of different ones.
Yeah.
Depending on how a project was proposed to be carried out. A lot of restoration projects nowadays are handled primarily by contractors, which wouldn't involve volunteers, but it could be designed for volunteers too. And there could be both.
Right.
It's all a matter of how you set the thing up.
I think it was timely considering the emails that went around concerning, looking at a larger project on the Clackamas and the island, coordinating with West Lynn, like us, Milwaukee, us. I mean, so, I think it's broad enough that it would give us flexibility to try to identify projects and funding opportunities to make recommendations to the
Yeah,
commission.
Metro's a great source right now, and will be for a short period of time. Do you have a?
Well, one comment, Brian, just so we don't get bogged down in terms or confuse ourselves with our terms. I mean, looking at the proposed bylaw revisions that we already adopted, we actually call those several items there responsibilities of the committee, if I'm tracking this all right. And so what we're talking about here, whether you choose to call them goals or you choose to call them activities or whatever term you happen to like, they are intended to have a shorter timeline associated with them,
So probably-
not something that's the life of the committee.
Probably should have said NRC goals for current biennium.
Yeah, could
Some-
set goals for biennium, could have called them activities,
Right.
whatever the.
But as you
folks like.
recall, we kind of had this big list of things, right?
Yes.
And we kind of needed to get it to something manageable that we have the ability.
I don't disagree with that. You warned us
Yeah.
too that you thought you'd like to see something that was very simple that could be shared with others, and then you recognized that for the committee's use, we'd want timelines, assignments, and a bunch of other stuff associated with each.
How
one
we
of
implement
these.
some of these
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
So there would be two different versions, a simple one and a more complicated one. I think that's something you laid out last time, and it made sense to me.
Okay, great.
I guess I had some confusion on this because, in fact, I was a little bit disoriented when I was looking at it because it seems like these goals are basically the responsibilities that we've already stated in the bylaws. And I'm not sure why we would restate them as goals, frankly.
But they're not. I mean, we didn't identify Arbor Days as a responsibility of the committee in our bylaws, for instance.
Promote community development or involvement in conservation, et cetera. I mean, it fits under that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that,
But, see, to me, there's a combination of generalities and specifics within these 6 goals.
Yes, I
Things
think
were
that's
co-
a fair comment.
Yeah,
Sure.
and so, to me, it's kind of it's a mixture of a couple different things, and I'm not sure that's what we all had in mind, frankly.
Well, maybe what we need to do in that sense is take a couple of them that are a little bit more general and shape them so they are very appropriate to a 2-year time frame.
So I guess I was trying to get, you've got your responsibilities, right? Pretty broad, you put a lot of things in there, right? And then you want the specifics of the work plan. And I was trying to do something in the middle and trying to say, here are the things we're going to focus on for the next,
Yeah.
till the next biennium or whatever time frame we decide, because I want us all to agree that this, with the staff resources that we have, this is where we're focusing our energy.
yeah, part of it is we do need to make a statement along with the specific projects of how they fit into the goals of both the NRC and the city. And I think that was part of what you were trying to do. And but we've got a format that Bob Roth has formed, where it's basically a spreadsheet, and column A is your overall overarching goals, and then you proceed down to the actual projects. And if we're going to make use of that, that might be a good way of breaking the different parts out that are in here.
Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it as well. I saw this as a document that would be attached to our original document, because what the original document does is flesh out what our responsibilities and activities are. And then this is a summation of what will occur over the next biennium in relationship to those things. And then the following document would be the spreadsheet of how we're actually going to accomplish these things. So I see it nicely tying things together and making, helping us frame our work.
And helping me too, because I've got to be, there's only so much that we can do. And
Yeah.
trying to make sure there's agreement on the direction we're heading, so 6 months from now, someone doesn't come back in and say, why aren't we doing this? Because we all agree that this is what we're working on. And so I agree. I think it gets refined as we go down from responsibilities to goals to work plan.
Following up then on Dick's comment, which I thought was very much appropriate, that would suggest to me like goal number one here or activity number one here for the biennium, whatever term you like, would not be the general term promote community involvement. It would be some much more specific statement, whatever it is. If it's the conduct of a tour and the preparation of a brochure or whatever, that would be actually what we call it for this biennium as a way to do that. And in the same way, number 4 would be something like initiate coordination with the PrAC, because it's something that we're just working our way out, not something that we do for the next 20 years. And the last one, restoration projects, though we don't know the specifics yet, I mean, still, that activity would be to identify and implement 2 projects for the next biennium, or
Right.
whatever the right way to quantify it.
And I think, and I agree, there's some generality here with some specific, because it felt like on some of these there were specifics, and it felt like, okay, maybe we should focus in on, we know that there's projects going on right now. We know that there's master planning and PrAC going on, right? And so why not say we want to be, they've said, we're doing these projects, and we said, well, we want to be a part of it, right?
Right, but see, I think we understand that, and I don't have any problem with the responsibilities as we've laid them out on 611, for the bylaws. To me, those are broad responsibilities, but I think our discussion was on this last time, and that's what you're going to try to simplify.
Right.
And so therefore, I think it begs for some more work on this, I guess, to define specific things that we're going to do. And I thought we'd kind of started that last time.
And I was trying to
It's
capture
like
that
Arbor Day and-
in this.
Right, but see, I don't think that's where that should be, because you're talking about goals here.
But
And
I mean,
goals are not.
that's why I don't even like the word, Dick. I'd like, for the sake of discussion here, let's call it activities. For
Great,
a moment.
okay, activities.
Because we're
All right.
talking about a work plan.
Yeah.
And then, do you think if we took each of these, and if we decide there's something else that we really think is missing and we want there too, and rework the descriptions a little bit so they were very much tied to something we would accomplish in the next biennium, would that take us where you're
Yeah.
thinking? Because that's what I'm
Well-
thinking too, if you agree with that.
Well,
idea.
I think that's kind of what the discussion was last time, unless I've mischaracterized it. But we were going down the list here in Bob's deal and adding in information, for various specific activities.
So it would
And-
be action, so if we use that as a format, which has the responsibility category, which is our first document, then the title in that category would be the activity. So
Yeah.
we can either change this to activity and timeline, and then it would match this document, or change the word in the goals document to be action. So either one would tie it nicely, and then from there, we could flush out the
Yeah,
rest of the
whatever.
sheet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I
But
have a
we could do
little-
it here, because it would be much more thorough than doing
I
it
think the
here.
idea was
Yeah.
to try to make this simpler, and when you say flush out things, in my mind, I'm thinking, this looks like a whole lot of work,
Well, when we get to this level, it should be, or we're never going to get anything done. But
You have
at
to say it
this
different way.
level,
First, you agree on what the tasks are,
Right.
Yeah.
however many of them there are, and then we can work out all those other
Yes.
details
Right.
that go in the other
Right.
And,
seven
but again,
columns.
that's what we were starting to do last time, I think.
Well, and that's what I think we're still trying to do.
Okay.
Agree
So
on what that series
so
of
Pete and I
activities are.
took that sheet with our
Yeah.
comments that were on there and tried to put those into something that's a little simpler and a little broader
Okay,
than what I view that as really as a detailed work plan.
okay.
Now that.
But and we may have missed. I mean, some of this stuff there was some vaguer, that we weren't sure where it was going to go.
Yeah, and like city staff, we also have limited time, and so we have to be realistic. And But, you know, there's a lot of good goals here at the same time. And you know, and part of that spreadsheet is to prioritize. We're going to get everything entered and then sit down and say, this one's priority 1, this one's 5, this one's 9, and so on. And each person vote, and we'll come up. That's the way the Clackamas River Basin Council does it, with a lot of experts sitting in.
And
And it's been very effective.
once you have a set of goals that you're ready, or set a work plan, that you're ready to adopt, the discussion was that it would accompany your bylaw revisions together for the city commission to review.
So you think we need to go back to that sheet and vote on what we want to do?
Well, that's one way of doing it. It shouldn't be that hard to do, once we get the stuff entered, of course.
Well, yeah, that'd be my only comment.
Well,
is,
I
do we
mean, how
really
much
have
time-
the
how much time am I
information
gonna
ready to do
spend?
that yet?
Yeah.
Providing detail for something that,
Well, yeah, there's stuff that is an idea at this point still, and other things that, you know, if it isn't concrete now, it will be soon, like some of those development projects.
Well,
And so there's you got to realize that things are at different levels of development, and if something's not quite ready to work on, you vote it lower, and if it's imminent, you vote it higher, and so on. You know, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but you have to take all the, you know, and it sounds like a lot of work, but it really pays off, because, you know, you get an agreement that, you know, this is our number one priority, and this is our lowest importance priority, and so on. And everybody's arrayed there in the middle, and so on.
I guess, you know, I don't disagree with what you're saying on sitting down and ranking them, but we're far away from that. You know, to me, it's more important to try to figure out the specifics of what we're talking about here. Just put them down, you know, and we've already got a template here. We've got things listed here. We've got things that Tony has provided also. So let's just list the activities down. I don't, you know, to me, the esoteric discussions of some of this stuff are pie in the sky also, and I have a problem with focusing on something when I don't know the specifics of it, you know. And the generalities, I think we know in terms of our goals and responsibilities, or whatever we're going to call them, and they're in our bylaws. But now we need the specifics, some of which Tony has provided based on our prior meeting.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I wouldn't worry about ranking things or anything. Let's just,
Well,
it seems to me we
that's-
should focus on just putting some specifics in the plan.
As I said, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay,
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
all right.
because-
The
Well,
problem is, I think, though, I'm not sure this helps us that much. I was just trying to match up that with this and this matrix. And
Yeah.
the things I don't see reflected over there are a number of ongoing things.
yeah.
Now, do we really want to add, you know, try to identify 9 different ongoing things over here too? Or do we want to have just one placeholder for ongoing assignments from the city? Or how do we want to handle the ongoing stuff?
To me, it's just, well, to me, we react when the city asks us to react, or when we see something that needs to be acted upon, maybe we talk to the city about it,
Yes.
you know, to see if that's something that we should be looking at.
Well, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
That's about all I see that's missing from this list,
Yeah.
basically. That is on here, is that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So how do we close that loop?
Well, to me, I think I don't particularly like big matrices and committees like this, because
Yeah, it's still
it
a lot of
costs,
detail.
you know, a lot of time for city staff to work on it, and so forth and so on, which really this should be our responsibility, you know, to put this together and bring it back to city staff. And so, to me, trying to figure out what the actions are, what the activities are that we're going to do is, to me, that's the first step.
Yes, I
We already know what our responsibilities are.
Exactly.
Right.
And so what are the activities? And some of those we have placeholders for, and Tony's got others in here.
Yes.
So,
So,
I'm just saying the only real big discrepancy I see are a bunch of these ongoing things like comprehensive plan revisions, code revisions,
Right.
planning goals and policies, land use applications, Clackamas Cove review, city activities, impacts, public property and parks upkeep, heritage trees submissions. I mean, they're all things
Details.
the city would bring to us.
Yeah, and
when
they, and
they're-
they, I think,
Yeah.
I see them falling into each of those categories. So
exactly.
I think,
I do think we need to take ongoing, unpredictable things like heritage trees into its own category, not mixed in with short-term projects. 'Cause this committee is gonna be doing that forever, basically. And,
I'm not sure even what you meant by that, actually.
okay,
What-
okay, we have stuff like heritage tree nominations. They
Yeah.
come at random.
Right?
They're ongoing. They'll be going on for the next 100 years, maybe, you know? They don't belong in with short-term projects that'll take us 2 years to complete.
But they are things we will work on in the
Right,
next 2 years.
exactly.
But you have
but-
you have a statutory requirement per the municipal code to review that. I don't think
Right.
it needs to be a goal of yours.
that's a recommendation from the,
Yeah.
our job is to provide recommendations about them, respond to them, not,
Approve or deny.
or to start them. So I think it falls into goal 5. So I think it would easily, the city commission would be asking for recommendation, we would respond to that.
Yeah.
So,
Now, why would you want heritage trees separate, though? I don't
Well,
see, to me.
I'm saying that it doesn't belong in with a project that we're going to complete this year.
It's already
it's never
adopted
gonna
in
be
your
completed.
code.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already it's a,
It's,
yeah.
it's a set process. I don't
Yeah.
think you need to say we're gonna process heritage trees, because it would be on every one of your activities from now until
Yeah.
we stop doing it. It's codified.
yeah.
I don't think it needs to be there.
What I'm wondering though, for just for the sake of the work plan, how do we treat those ongoing activities? Ignore them, or do we
Wh- wh-
create a generic
which,
activity?
The ongoing ones,
Yeah.
like land use applications.
Yes.
I don't think we need to get so hung up on it. We're trying to find things that we want to do, whereas we're already sending you land use applications.
Yes.
We're already sending you heritage trees. I don't think it needs to be on here.
Right.
I really, really don't.
Yeah.
You know, you have to. We will get you the things that we're required to get you that are standard.
I don't
This
know,
is-
maybe I'm a nerd maybe I am. You know, and I look at this
And we
thing
love
that
that
I want
about
to
you.
call a work plan, and I list activities, and if there's this thing down here that's the ongoing stuff, and it's what we spend 40% of our time on, I guess I want to say so.
But we've only processed 3 heritage. I guess if it changes,
Well, I don't mean just the heritage stuff, I mean all the other ongoing stuff you bring us.
Yeah.
That's not the only ongoing thing you bring us.
Well,
like what other? I guess.
Well, you know, I read off 6 or 8 of them there on that matrix that are basically ongoing city activities.
Right,
that
but
when
we-
they were ripe, you would bring them to us.
We've identified, right, master planning,
Comprehensive plan revisions, land
But there-
use applications.
but there are none right now, right?
Well, but won't there be land use applications
I
sometime in the
mean,
next biennium?
I guess I meant there's no code changes, there's no comp plan policies being changed right now. So I think that's where we were trying to say that
Fair enough.
doesn't need to be on any list right now, because there's nothing, no one's proposing to do anything.
We
right
might,
now.
we might
No,
have
I
that to the
understand your
next
point. I
biennium's
understand
work
your
plan,
Maybe.
knowing that something would be coming up.
Yeah.
Right.
But if not, we wouldn't.
Right.
okay, now, I wasn't going to actually, excuse me.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying that line of thought, I was just tracking it out. Go ahead.
Okay. Last November, and more recently, I sent a checklist around that I developed last November. And I sent it to you, Tony, and also you, Pete, in consideration for your review on this. And that checklist, the sole intent of that checklist, it was a one-page checklist of things that we do or supposed to do, or something's going to happen. We're going to do them at some point in time. And it had the list down the side, and it had a yes, no, and it had a date for our Natural Resource Council, our commission meetings, committee meetings. And so that would be used every month. And that would be for the city to basically check mark things that we need to look at. Just kind of a reminder checklist so that we have that to look at this time. Heritage trees was on that, I believe, and it's just a check mark, yes or no. And to me, that and land use application was on it and other things, you know. And to me, that was just a simple way to try to categorize our meetings so that we could look at a list and say we need to do these things. And now we're sitting here talking about this, and we're still trying to develop a work plan. And to me, the work plan is what the city asked us to do, and what the city has asked us to do are basically in our bylaws. And we've got details that we can put in that I did put in the checklist based on what we had done before and what we expect to do. But to me, that was just a simple way to categorize things. And I still kind of think now that maybe that might be a good way to look at it, because I don't think we're getting too far with this.
Well, I don't
At this
think we're
point.
doing anything with it
Yeah.
yet, are
Well,
we?
that-
I mean, that's not the same thing as saying we shouldn't.
Right.
I mean,
Well, why
if
don't we
we're
do
gonna
something?
write a brochure in the next year, for instance, on urban streams, if we're going to conduct a tour in the fall of Oregon City natural resource sites, if we're going to plan and participate in the Arbor Day tree planting activity in the spring, I mean, if we're going to do this series of things in the next year, you're never going to find those in the bylaws. Those are
Right.
actually
Right,
tasks
right.
we're going to do in the next year. We should identify them. We should make some assignments.
Yeah.
We should put some timelines
Yes,
on.
okay.
I mean, I
don't
can't get
disagree.
around the fact that we need to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
and-
gee,
and-
should we just start, you know, maybe on the first page,
Well,
or what? I mean, what do you?
I
I think for
think,
the time being, I mean, we're trying to get to a set of goals that are simple, that you can agree to work on. Your work plan document or your matrix is it's gonna change from week to week and day to day based on resources and priorities. But I think that's an important consideration.
Are we spinning around, or is there a fear that somehow we're not going to put something on a list and it's not going to happen, or we're not I guess I'm just struggling with, is it a form issue? Is it a...
Well, I think among the committee,
It
we're
seems
honestly
like-
struggling with
Yeah.
the best way for us to structure our activity. I mean, as you can see, there's not a consensus here on how we do this.
well, let's all, might I suggest that we all take a stab at what we should do now to move forward. And then see if any one of our ideas says, okay, yeah, I think that will work. And then we can make a decision from that point.
Yeah, we
At least we can identify where we have things in common.
Yeah, we have the list that was provided by city staff, plus things we had listed earlier. And we could just read each one out and say, well, that's not really important, or it's really important, or whatever, and just go from there. That would be one way we could move forward right now. So, because we've got some concrete stuff that
Yeah.
we can talk about,
Yeah.
and what we need to know is, you know, what are we getting into is one thing. When are we getting into it? And how important it is,
Right.
and how much more work does it need before it can go forward?
And,
You know,
and I
and
agree
anything
with
we're-
that, and I would say that after we review these, then we hand off that list to someone with one of these to flush out for us, and then bring it back to the committee for consideration at
That
the
would
next
work.
meeting, and then we don't have to worry about
Yeah, 'cause,
mucking
we're-
into the weeds.
We're not going to, I don't think
Yeah.
we have the wherewithal to use that form right now.
Yeah, I think,
So-
yeah. Okay.
But, you know, we could just start with Tony's list here and go down the line, and then also into what we did earlier.
You know, I have a real problem with that, with what you said,
What?
in terms of we're not, basically saying we're not capable of doing this now with this form. I've never liked this form, by the way, as you know, but the form does allow you to focus your thoughts and to categorize things. And I think that's the value of the form.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
so, to me, it seems like we should be using this form to go down these things one by one and add in actions based on what Tony has provided us over here.
I don't disagree with that, but you know, it only takes about a minute.
Well, that's fine.
Because if you, I mean, the rest of the form doesn't matter. If you look at the actions,
Yes.
the
yes.
question is, what actions are there that aren't here already, and should they be?
Yes.
I mean, I think we can do that real quick.
Yeah. But to me, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so if one of us wants to, we can all take notes, but if someone wants to add them onto this form, I don't even have a copy, I don't think.
Well, I'll just walk down through it pretty quick. If you want me to, Ryan.
Hang tight and we'll go make some.
Let me borrow that. I'll go make it. Does anybody else need copies?
No, I got one.
Of this-
Oh, the template, yeah, I could use it.
Yeah, go ahead and make me some.
But honestly, a quick count there, there's only a couple of tasks, specific identified tasks in that matrix that aren't here
Great.
already.
Let's add
And
them.
then we could work them into it if we
Great.
decide we want to. The rest are these ongoing things.
Right, but
you
see,
know.
we're going the wrong way, though. We don't need to go to this. We need to go to this to keep it categorized in subdivisions.
Well, I don't think they're any
subcategories.
different. I mean,
Yeah.
what I
Well, they-
want to do with this is the same thing.
Yeah.
I want to have a list of tasks
Yes.
for this
Yeah.
biennium.
Yeah.
I don't want to call them goals,
Right.
because that seems too mushy to
Right.
me.
I-
If you like tasks, if you like activities,
Yeah.
but things
Whatever they
we're
can-
gonna do, whatever
No,
word you
No,
like.
I agree, but
Whatever,
see,
yeah.
that was the whole point of this. I cannot believe I'm arguing for this and I didn't even like it.
But,
you know?
I mean,
but
But they're no different. If all we're trying to do is develop a list of the activities, whether
Right.
it looks like
No.
that or whether it looks like the second column in that, it's the same thing.
Yeah, just as long as we identify our responsibilities and here's what the action that we're taking.
Well, if you can once
underneath that.
get the
Yeah.
list of tasks
Yeah, I'm
and
fine
agree
with that.
and agree that that's the right list, then I think it's fairly easy over the next few weeks to
To
fill
fill
in
it
the other columns, you know.
Okay.
And you know, while we're waiting for Tony to come back with a copy, you know,
Tony's
the only
still
two
here.
that jumped out at me
Yeah.
that are on that matrix that aren't here already are the Natural Resource Tour and the Clackamat Cove Review. So, I mean, if you want to add them, I mean, it seems to me like in activity number one, if you like the term activity or whatever, in turning it into something more specific, we're now talking about both the preparation of this brochure and a natural resource tour. They could be both in the same activity, or they could be broken into two if people like that better. And then the only other one that's missing is down here at the other end is Clackamat Cove, and you can add it as one more.
And that's a restoration project, right?
No.
Or is it a
No,
new
it's the
project?
review of the
Oh,
revised
right,
master plan
right,
whenever
right.
it happens.
Yeah, and that's one that we're not sure of the timing on.
No,
Yeah.
but I think we can be pretty sure it's this biennium, can't we? Or we can presume that.
It could be this
Does
year.
it fall under,
Could have been any of the last 7 years.
Well, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, I guess, but you know.
does
Yeah,
it fall
I'm
under
serious.
provide recommendations to the city commission?
Yes, it would.
Where'd it come from? I don't,
Who gave me that?
I mean, it's the same kind of
Well, the
thing as the
original was from
Willamette
Doug.
Falls Legacy
Doug,
Project,
Doug.
basically.
Right.
Probably in the list, it should probably come after that one.
Okay, so.
I guess there was
Okay.
two ways that we looked at that. I think that for the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, it's a much bigger public investment process.
Right.
You are going to receive land use applications. The next time the code comes in, it will be as a land use application. So we didn't put it on here because I kind of stripped out things like heritage trees and land use apps because it's something you are going to get consistently, whether it's a goal of yours or not, because we're required to by code.
But it's a big deal, and we're
It is. I
especially
agree.
interested
So,
in it. and,
so you know, I guess, you know, like I said, if we want to add that in, it's up to you guys. My thought was, you're going to be involved because when they submit the land use, we're going to send it to you. But if you want it called out specifically, so be it.
I guess that'd be my 2 cents worth, but let's call that one out. I mean, if we do that and address the natural resource tour, we've really melded these.
I think that in looking at this again, based on what Tony said and what everybody said is, I can go along with this, but I would really recommend that we change the goals, not the activities, but the responsibilities to be consistent with our bylaws. We have 5 bylaws, I believe.
Responsibilities in your bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean tie them to our
Well,
goal,
tie them to
our
those
1 to 5.
responsibilities. They aren't the same thing.
No,
Yes.
I mean, we could have 5
Let me-
activities for one of those.
Let me finish.
responsibilities.
I'm older, Doug.
Yeah.
I'm older than you.
Not
Let me
much.
finish. But it's a responsibility. NRC responsibility is promote community involvement, so forth and so on. Underneath that, you can have like 2 or 3 action items that we're going to do. Activities, action items, whatever you want to call them. But
Well,
the res-
you could format it that way if you wanted, but then you're putting the tasks underneath the 5 responsibilities if you like that structure better.
well, yes, because that focuses things, I think, and
Oh,
allows you to
I don't
see the
disagree with
overall.
that. I mean, the other thing to do is list the tasks and then under them identify which responsibility they address. You can do it either
You
way.
could do it that
whichever-
way, but
Whichever you like.
well, in my mind, see, if you're handing this to somebody like the city commission, here are our responsibilities based on our bylaws, bang, 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 all 5 of them. And under each one, we've identified 2 or 3 action items to take on this year.
But we're
You know.
not, of course, identifying 2 or 3 action items under each of 5 responsibilities.
Yes, we are.
No, we aren't.
Of course we are.
Well, my list only has 7 on it total.
Well,
yeah, and
Well,
it's going to be irregular, let's put it that way.
if you go back and look at our responsibilities in this spreadsheet, and by the way, there's 5 pages in the spreadsheet, or 4 pages in the spreadsheet. It goes up to 5C2.
I got that.
So you
Oh, yeah,
guys
these
only
are,
have
Yeah,
these
first
are
2
printed
pages.
double-sided,
No,
so.
these are
Oh,
two-sided.
2 sided? Oh, excuse me. Okay, I didn't look at the back. Well, I guess what I was going to say was, you've got activities or action items under each one of our responsibilities. And that's, I think, how this should be laid out, if you want to do it that way.
I don't have any argument.
And that
with
summarizes everything, and that's a
As
good
a
way
way to
to.
format it.
I
don't
think
have any
Tony's done a
argument
great
with that,
job, yeah.
I'm wondering if we shouldn't focus first on the task at hand, which is fitting these goals into this, and then come up with suggestions for what else we can do, like
Okay.
the changing of the bylaws and doing that. We can come up with those later, but right now focusing on reviewing the goals and seeing how well they fit here
Okay.
and what we need to do. Okay.
Okay, so that means,
Start with goal, activity 1, or whatever we're going to call
Yeah,
it.
let's stop calling them goals.
Okay.
Let's decide what.
It's a
term we like.
responsibility, our
No,
responsibility.
and they're not responsibilities.
Not yet.
Because that's
No,
the
no.
things that
Yeah.
are in the bylaws. That
That's
list of
right.
responsibilities.
That's
So-
These other things that we're going to do aren't responsibilities.
Oh, no,
and they aren't goals.
they're
I under-
projects.
I
They
understand
could be
that.
projects, they could be
But-
activities, they could be tasks, they could be whatever
Yes.
term of art you
Yeah,
like.
what-
But instead of calling a goal, that's a responsibility,
That's right.
based on the bylaws.
That's right.
Just to be consistent,
Oh,
for
I agree
consistency.
100%.
Yeah.
Those things in the bylaws we call responsibilities, and so if we're cross-referencing them here, we call them the same
Yeah,
thing.
okay, great. I like it.
And then these other things we're going to do aren't goals. They're
That's right. They're
whatever
actions.
term of art you like.
Yeah.
They're actions.
Yes.
That's fine by me.
Okay,
Action, project, there's,
Yeah, whichever term of art people prefer.
okay.
What do you prefer?
Yeah, I suppose we should settle on a term here. Project,
Yeah.
just throw out, we can all throw out a few
Project works.
project
me,
works,
that's
because
an
it really shows that it's an activity.
yeah.
Broad.
It's not a goal,
No, it's
overarching.
it's an action item.
It's something
Okay.
we're going to
Action
do.
item.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
part of a work plan.
Action item is another one, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Project, action item.
This action item would be fine too with me.
Okay.
So which one did we pick?
We decided they're both wonderful.
You're all.
Question.
Okay,
and then you wanna-
call the vote. How's that?
We
Just for
can.
fun.
um,
Informally. Let's pick
Yeah.
one.
Well, how many folks?
Project is shorter, action item sounds really good, so
Okay.
take our pick. I'd go for project just because it's a little shorter. What about you?
I like actions or activities better just because so many of these things are called projects already. I mean, the city calls many of these things projects,
Yeah.
but not others.
So that would be taken care of by the general title of whatever it is, okay?
I could go either way on it, and, you know, it's just one word or two words maybe
Yeah.
underneath our responsibilities, and then you've got like 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C, or something,
Yeah.
you know, for underneath action items, you know.
Well, however many actions
however it is, yeah.
activities you got,
Yeah,
Yeah, action item could cover things before they're really a concrete thing, but something that we need to start working on to develop a project or, so it'd be a little more broad. So, thought activity was good. And
Well, activity seems consistent with the work plan idea. I mean, something you're going to do.
activity would be fine by me.
sure.
Activity.
Okay, let's call it activity. Oh, boy.
Good.
For the public's benefit, he should realize that we're in a Burke session, you know, so we're going to be arguing.
Well, I fully
But-
understand that.
Yeah, in regular meetings, we don't argue.
Yeah,
All right.
can I introduce you? It's this is Bob LaSalle, who is
Yep.
a candidate for mayor for this upcoming election.
Okay.
So that's why he's here, I believe.
And we want to start our regular meeting on time if we can. So.
Okay, okay.
And okay, so we have 16 minutes.
Okay.
Well, then, just to be, disgustingly repetitive here,
Okay.
Dick had proposed that our work plan basically be formatted with the committee's responsibilities listed, and then these activities listed underneath the appropriate responsibility. Is that what we're now doing? I mean, is that the?
I don't think-
We're going to talk about the format after we're done reviewing the goals.
Yeah.
So
that
let's do
basically
that.
reflects, because this is
Yeah.
in order of those 5
Right,
goals.
right.
The
No,
spreadsheet.
No.
it's not quite.
It was at
If-
one time.
Okay,
Okay,
are
if-
we changing our focus and moving away from talking about the goals and talking
No,
about
I think we need to
formatting?
talk about the goals.
Okay,
I
let's,
was just,
Okay, let me make a
I'm
recommendation.
just asking if we already made that decision or not.
No.
Let me make,
So
let me
the
make
answer
a
is no.
recommendation
Yeah.
Yeah.
that, as we've already discussed and agreed to, I think, we're calling them responsibilities first, and then we're calling them activities underneath each responsibility.
No, the responsibilities are the things lifted right out of the bylaws.
That's what I'm saying.
We're not creating anything new
No,
called
no,
responsibilities.
that's, I think that's what I'm saying. The responsibilities are from our bylaws. That's what I've been
Yes,
arguing.
Exactly.
And that's
We're not
what-
writing responsibilities.
And that's what should be there, the same responsibility.
Yes.
And therefore, number 6 goes away. And number 6 may be under one of these other responsibilities, for example.
I think all of these need to be under one of those 5 goals.
Exactly,
right,
okay,
right,
all right.
right.
I think we're all on the
Five
same page.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that, right? We're going to take the responsibilities from the bylaws. We're going to put them as a header. Underneath that, we're going to have activities. There could be 0, there could be 5.
Yep, yep.
Until we get through it.
Yep.
Well, I agree, though I don't think,
Okay.
by the way, that means number 6 goes away.
No,
Well, I think it
Well,
just gets
it
replaced.
does.
So,
Number
like,
6
it
is
gets
to develop
replaced.
2
It
new
gets
restoration projects.
It gets replaced
Well,
under
activity under
responsibility.
one of
We're going to
these.
identify a responsibility to slide that into.
Well, right,
would fit under
the
one
goal,
bylaw.
there's no goal 6 or
Yeah.
responsibility 6, there's only 5 responsibilities. See, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying. It moves somewhere else.
So the first responsibility is promote community involvement in natural resource conservation. We all agree to that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And we got a natural resources tour
Okay.
is already there.
Yeah.
Heard that
So that
one.
would be one of the activities. And then the second one is prepare educational information and materials for distribution to the public. So that'd be the second
We
one.
just put that in there because it was a conversation piece.
Right,
So
right.
Yeah, and that's,
Well, wait a sec, you guys lost me already.
what-
Because the thing that is number 1 on that list is one of the committee responsibilities that Dick's been talking about. So if we're right now identifying activities that we are later going to fit in our 5 responsibilities, the activities that are there are the preparation of a brochure on urban stream quality, and then actually, though we didn't call it out yet, the natural resources tour from the other. Those are the two activities
Right, and
that
then-
are
Well,
represented
there's
there.
others, there's,
However you want to number.
Yeah, and they would go right there. So they're just
Yeah,
a list.
They would go under
Yeah,
number one,
Yeah.
because
Right.
that's where they fit.
right.
yeah,
And then
Arbor Day,
should-
Science Fair was
They'd be
mentioned.
what, A and B
And
under
then-
number
Yeah,
one.
And
yeah,
then-
1 and 2 both pretty much fit under
Right.
our goal number 1.
Right.
Well, now then, okay, now then,
Or-
what you're saying is
or-
the Arbor Day thing would be the third one under number one. Call it C for the sake of argument, huh?
Yeah, because it's
So
working
that-
with volunteers and promoting community involvement. So
Okay, so we got the Natural
Clearly.
Resources Tour, the Urban Stream Quality Brochure, and the Arbor Day activities as three things under responsibility number one.
that's a good start.
Okay.
Four? I think I have, what did I miss? Annual tour is the first one.
Yes?
Preparation of education materials would be the second one. Third is to collaborate, or maybe, no, it's not.
Well,
That's what I got wrong.
Yeah, actually, that collaborate sentence
Goes with the
yeah the
Okay.
previous statement, which
Right.
is somewhat general
right.
because I
Okay,
mean,
that's what I missed, was
we
that
could
one.
create as many
Got it.
brochures as we possibly
Right.
would want to.
And the
For
third
the
one is
sake of
Arbor Day.
argument here, we're homing in on this particular.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. All
Right.
right. Perfect. All right. And then 1B, promote community involvement, is the Arbor Day activity.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Are we happy with those two?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, number 3, NRC supports the Legacy Project, which I don't believe have formally done, but accepting this would imply that, and I thought was fit in with our goal number 3, which is review and recommend land use applications.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that would go right in with that, and
Responsibility.
yeah, our bylaw responsibility from Article
Okay.
4.
Yes.
So
Just to be clear.
under line 3A, we could include I don't know how you would say that. Okay,
Well, I mean, do you want that to say the NRC shall determine if they support the legacy project? I mean, if you're not comfortable
review
saying
the
that you
legacy
support it.
project? Review and recommend about the legacy project?
I think it's,
Well, see, we already have that in there under 3A. We have land use application review. That's whatever comes up,
Right, so
whatever the
that's-
city asks us
yeah.
to do.
All right.
And then under 3B, we've already got Blue Heron Site
Review.
review
So
or
it's already
application
in.
review. I'm not sure how you would like to
so
say
that's
it.
already in there.
So it's already in
Yeah,
there? Okay.
It's already in there.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
And then, so goal 4,
No, and
Well,
3C,
and the
Okay, what am I missing?
Clackamas
Cove.
one goes
Clackamas
there,
Cove
too.
goes, oh, good.
Yes, it
All
does.
right.
So there's two of them there.
And
Yeah.
it goes under 3B as well?
3C.
Oh, 3C, and it's already there.
Yeah,
Got
it's
it.
already
Yeah,
there.
and
Okay.
And then there's the Clackamas Cove.
Okay,
That is the Clackamas Cove.
it's 3C.
3C.
Okay, and
And
then,
so we just have to make sure we have both the Blue Heron site and Clackamas Cove down for the
and we
moment.
should probably call Blue Heron Site the Willamette
Legacy.
Falls Legacy
Yeah,
Project.
Willamette Falls
Okay.
Legacy, yeah.
Okay. And then, Glen Oak and Filbert Run, Newell Creek, coordination with PrAC, we've got that, don't we, in our coordination with PrAC?
This is new.
I think those are new.
Coordinate with PrAC, 5A.
Yeah, that we got, but we don't have
Okay.
the specific tasks,
Okay,
which there's, city
Okay.
is suggesting will include those 3 projects.
okay. Glen Oak,
And what is, well, let's see. So, and that's going to involve planning for the parks specifically in those developments and other
Newell
properties?
Creek.
Well, rather than get into specifics of it, we have a title for it, and so I think we
Yeah.
just need to focus on that rather than try to get into the weeds on what
Well,
it is,
Just to get our list right.
just to
Yeah.
get the list.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
Right,
trying to
perfect.
define what it
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
doing there. 'Cause
Yeah,
yeah.
so that we know to expect
Yeah,
things on those things.
the-
All right, great.
The reason I was asking that is if it involves land use planning that we need to comment on, it could go in a different category.
Right, right.
As it is, it goes under our goal number 5.
Now, of course, you're reading off of Jerry's comments. Can somebody enlighten me about the Glen Oak and Filbert Run properties?
That's all it says. That's why I was asking a question about it.
I mean,
The city has purchased property on Glen Oak Road for a park, neighborhood park. We also have property on Filbert Run, and Metro is currently working on public engagement for use of Mill Creek Canyon.
Right.
the New Creek Canyon one I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Is it reasonable for us to assume that the Glen Oak and Filbert Run activities would be brought to us this biennium?
Yeah, well, that I don't know. but-
You know, these are run, initially, it's a public engagement, they're seeking input. It's not a land use action until the concept's done. So we were trying to identify ways to coordinate with PrAC, and so these are two projects where that could occur.
Yeah, so the members of those two organizations could influence what's being said at some of the meetings that are coming up, the public outreach meetings, so that would,
Essentially, either Scott's going to give me updates, and I'm going to come tell you about it, or maybe they're going to come present, or Scott will come and give you, so I mean, we're just putting it on here so that we know
yeah, because
something that we're going to be involved with.
yeah, so that, but it looks like this biennium would be a likely time, so.
Yeah, they just approved the contract for it.
So it would make sense
They're
to
funded.
include them as
Yep.
Yes,
potential.
yep, yes.
And portions of those
activities.
properties are within this sensitive areas, so.
Okay, where are we?
So we're
So
now
we'd be
on
on
5?
On 5, yeah, which is NRC will provide recommendations to the City Commission by the end of November 2014 for specific natural resource-related policy, code, programmatic, and staffing considerations in the next biennium.
Which falls under
And that's a big project. And
3.
Which responsibility does that fall under?
I
think it
put
fits
it under
under
5.
I was thinking 4 because it results in good communication with policymakers to achieve your mission.
Yeah,
Oh, that's good as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And some of these could very easily fall under multiple
Right.
Yeah.
categories, of course.
Right.
Okay.
What's the verdict?
4.
Yeah, I'd say both 4 and 5.
City, and then maybe,
It could be both, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Number 5
Let's not make
specifically
it
refers to
redundant.
the city
There's
commission.
absolutely no reason to put things down twice on a
right.
Well,
Well,
then it's
no,
probably
that's
5,
the-
because that one's the one that calls out the city commission.
I would much rather just put them and then put, if there's multiple ones, like we did for city commission, goals 3 and 4.
Yeah, put it in parentheses somewhere in the document.
So let's pick one way. Well, I don't really care, however you want
Yeah,
to do it,
just-
but I don't want to put down the same thing over and over again.
Right, I agree
Not
completely with
readable.
that,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, and then down to our last one.
Restoration projects
Yeah. Do
and
you
funding
want to,
sources.
do you want to read that one? Ginger?
Yeah. Work to identify potential restoration project areas and funding sources to complete the work.
Okay.
I think we ought to make that one more specific as it evolves here. I mean, right now, it's just a placeholder. I mean, to be a real activity, we would have to identify 1, 2, 3, something, specific projects we'd implement in this biennium.
Okay, I think Tony's referred to this already, but there is an ongoing proposal to do a major restoration park effort centered around Clackamas Park. The other side of the river, the grant request is already in, and they're probably going to, like probably in quotes, going to get it because Metro's quite supportive. But we're basically looking at having Oregon City do something similar. And it, depending on how the studies go, it could expand upriver and even out into the Goat Island and the Willamette, as well as up to Abernethy Creek. But that's all open to discussion still. It's still early in the going, but it's something that we might want to have input into.
You might. Are we far enough along that you'd want to identify it
Uh,
as
it-
potentially one of those activities?
In the next biennium, yes. Not this year, though. I
Well,
don't
we're
think.
talking
Maybe
about
this year.
biennium here.
Yeah. So and the biennium, I believe, starts next January. So
Yeah, the only thing I'm nagging
Right.
about is I
Right.
don't like these things to be completely open-ended. We ought
Right.
to be as
That is-
specific as we know how to be.
right, and we could take it upon ourselves to look at other parks that need restoration.
But I guess, yeah, I mean, that was the whole point here, was to work to identify.
Right.
Yes.
We don't know, right?
Oh, that's right, they aren't identified, yeah.
Their projects aren't identified, funding sources aren't identified,
Right.
partners aren't identified. That's what we need to do.
Yes.
We're gonna come in here and everyone's gonna have 6 different projects, and we're gonna have to decide, okay, which one is feasible.
Right. That's-
So
that's-
would we be initiating or would we be giving feedback?
I think that's
As
number
our
4.
group.
As
Yeah,
I understand it,
because on
what
this-
Tony's talking about
yeah.
is that we would
We do the initiation?
screen, identify,
Okay. So that might fall under a 2 category.
Actually, I think it
Well,
could
or
fall under
one.
either 4 or 5, and obviously you're going to be communicating with PrAC on this.
well, you would,
Yeah,
yes.
so
Oh, yeah.
to me, it seems like it should be 5.
Okay, yeah, I like that better,
Well,
come to think of it.
I mean, I suppose, but I guess I'd say again, and Pete mentioned it earlier, and I thought he had a good argument. Number one is the responsibility where we work in partnership with local groups, community organizations to make things happen. If we really do
Yeah.
identify a couple of restoration projects and follow through on them, that's how you're going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's number 1, personally.
It's at least going to be part of it. I mean,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely part of it. You know, the thing that throws me off on it is that it starts out saying community involvement, but if you include the organizations of the community, that would certainly be true in just about every case. So,
But, you wouldn't go out to, excuse me, go
No,
ahead. You wouldn't go out to the community and talk to them about a potential project without talking to PrAC first, or the other folks in the city as appropriate.
yeah, and that's part of
So-
what we're
yes,
talking about
no,
doing.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
Yeah. So, to me, it could go in several different places. I think it's more important just to put it someplace for now, as
Yeah.
a draft,
And as a study effort, to come up with potential projects, that's definitely something we could do that could have some real good benefits down the road.
So can we add identify potential projects to
Yes.
5?
5.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes. 5 or 1, either one, or both.
You want to put it under 5 and acknowledge that it would also, in parens or something that would
Yeah.
address responsibility 1 as well. I mean,
Okay.
that covers the base, I guess.
Okay, we're right at 8 o'clock,
And we're right at the end.
And we did it.
and we did that list, and the rest of the stuff's already on it, on the spreadsheet, so I think
Okay.
we could take
If
everyone's notes and come up with a good copy.
Yeah, if I would volunteer to reformat this, and taking your formatting suggestions into consideration and
Okay,
emailing it to people to look at.
Does
Is
this
that-
mean we'll be tabling this because we were going to adopt it tonight?
Yeah,
Oh.
we're gonna have to table it.
Yeah. That's okay.
yeah, well,
I mean-
it shouldn't be long,
Yeah,
correct?
no.
Or to
We're
say
not-
it a different
yeah.
way, when we get to our business meeting, I guess we can talk about what the follow-through is.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Right.
who's responsible for what and what the schedule is
Right.
and all that stuff.
Right. And unless you guys think we're ready to adopt this today. Or would you
I don't
rather see
think
it
we're
cleaned
quite
up
there.
first? Okay, I
I
just
think
wanted
we need to
check.
have
I
a
don't-
finished thing
Okay.
before
Yeah, I
you ask
think-
us to
All right.
sign up for
I,
it.
Good.
I think it's just a matter of having a final
Yeah.
draft.
Okay.
That's really what we need.
Anyway, Ginger, you should be able to do this in 5 minutes, right?
I can do it on my
We'll give you
phone.
2 or 3 days anyway.
Do it on my phone.
All right. Okay, well, let's get back to our regular meeting. And, we can go ahead. We never officially finished the roll call, did we?
Right.
So, well, let's just,
I'll go ahead and.
yeah, just go ahead and say our names again. Doug-
Roll call.
Deputy Hart,
Brian Boyce.
Ginger Redlinger.
Richard Craven.
Okay, so we have a quorum. Do we have any citizen comments?
Nope.
Okay, and our minutes.
Fairly lengthy set of minutes here, so
I move to accept both sets.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Okay, then in the spirit of consensus, I consider those approved. Okay, old business. Okay, we're back to the beaver management and tree management issue.
Right. So we never had everybody's signature, and we never took the draft watermark off of the recommendation before sending it up. So I think we need to formalize that. And I just reformatted the document. We can sign it tonight,
Okay,
send it forward.
Who would like to come present to the Urban Renewal Commission?
there's probably a couple of people that could. I could, Jerry Herman could.
Okay, so we're probably looking at August 6th or August 20th.
I don't know if Doug would want to do that.
Well, I'd be willing to join somebody else if it was
Yeah,
a matter
okay.
of building a little team of 2 people or something.
Yeah.
I can be the standby because I'm in town, so if someone can't come, I'll go.
Okay.
Though I'd make one other comment here, and that is, you know, we drafted this 6-7 months ago now, and there has been a fair amount of discussion about it. We've heard a little bit of feedback from city staff and even members of the city commission. Do we want to adopt it in its draft form, or are there any revisions we would choose to make to it before we adopt it?
Well, as the action recommended section of this advisory thing, you know, that's something else that we probably want to clarify too, because we're talking about the Urban Renewal Commission as the property owner here.
Yes,
And
which is something we didn't entirely understand at the
Right,
time
at the
that
time, yeah.
the recommendations were developed, or the draft was
so
developed.
that is an easy fix if we just want to make that, but that's a,
Yeah, I noticed PrAC is on here too, so I mean, do you want, I guess, you know,
yeah.
how do you, where do you feel like you want to make this presentation to? Do you want to go to PrAC, then URA? Do you want to go to URA, not PrAC? Do you want to see if PrAC's interested?
Well, let me ask you a question first that would help me at least, Tony. What role does PrAC play in urban renewal commission managed lands like Clackamat Cove?
None right now.
Then why talk with PrAC?
The only
If you're talking about a larger
In the
management plan
yes.
of
Now, in
Clackamat
fairness, yes.
Cove and
In the
along
larger
the river.
sense, yes.
Right, so urban renewal is just one piece of that larger.
So there's two
system.
different. You're right. There's
It's
two
like,
different
well,
things
what's the
here.
extent of this?
Talk to the Urban Renewal Commission about Clackamat Cove. Start with PrAC about whether there needs to be some kind of citywide guidelines or best practices or
Because if we
something.
were looking larger along the Clack and along the Willamette and encompass the cove.
Now, in that sense, I mean, that would cause me to say maybe we want to revise these recommendations a bit so it's clear that we are talking about 2 different sets of recommendations that we want to give to 2 different groups.
would there be any difference in the recommendations? Is the next question.
Well, I guess that's a good point. Would we have the same thing to say? I mean, you know, what we say here has some very comments that are very specific to Clackamat Cove, and presumably those are only addressed to the Urban Renewal Commission.
Yeah, if there was a general difference in practices that we would be recommending, then but a lot of that may be applicable elsewhere. I'd have to review it again to see that.
I don't think the practices are different, but I'm just kind of talking out loud here about
Yeah.
whether the draft as we originally developed it, if it still fits what we now
Yeah, it
think
was-
we're trying to do.
Yeah, it was
Well,
developed in reference to ongoing events at the Cove, so.
And whoever crafted it, whoever put the time in to polish this, this is a great letter. So thank you very much. And I do think that there's enough mention in the third to the last paragraph on the letter, that's the second one on the top of page 2, that lists the parks, that it would clearly be recommendations for parks to consider the items and the information that's in this letter for all parks. It's very well written. So I would, as someone who appreciates a really good letter that gets the job done and summarizes some very difficult concepts in very accessible language, I like it the way that it is, and I think it could be used for many purposes.
Well, maybe the draft of the letter works fine then, as long as we understand that we're really talking about two different actions here. One of them is a dialogue with the Urban Renewal Commission, and the other one is a dialogue within the city where we would start with PRAC to talk about possibly recognizing best practices, set of best practices, or some whatever term of art you like.
You know what? I think the letter is really a nice letter, but what bothers me is that action recommended to City Commission, Planning Commission, Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. And it seems to me that as the Natural Resource Committee, we should have been coordinating with PRAC to develop this letter, and it should be a joint letter coming from us if we all agreed. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly where this leads. In terms of what I'm saying here, but it just seems like we're doing something that's almost a unilateral action, whereas it should have been, a combined effort somehow.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but remember what we've done so far. We developed a draft, we gave it to the planning department. I mean, that's all we've done so far.
Right, well, maybe we should have been coordinating with PRAC.
Well, I think the other part of this is that at the time that this recommendation was being put forward, the bylaws said that you can make advisory recommendations to those 3 bodies.
Yeah.
Then that's all it said. And so, I put that in there because it fit with the bylaws, but that's not necessarily the way it needs to read.
Right, but see,
Right,
PRAC,
right.
they
I agree
take
with
care of all of the stuff, basically,
Yeah.
And it just seems to me that you would want to try to coordinate with the responsible parties, and that would be PRAC.
Well, except that
You know-
Tony just answered my question by saying that PRAC doesn't have any role with Clackamat Cove, which muddies that water a little.
It might be helpful, though, building on your idea, for one of us to attend the next PRAC meeting and share this letter with them during the
I
comment
strongly
period.
agree.
Yeah.
That I think that's what we
Explain
need to
it to
think
them.
out here is what is it we're trying to
To
do
build that
at
bridge.
this point.
Yeah.
But
And I
haven't,
do agree, working with PRAC is the right long-term answer.
but they haven't seen the letter? I thought they saw the letter. I thought they, wasn't the letter provided to them as to the Urban Renewal Commission, or? Don't believe so? Oh, okay.
Hasn't been provided to the Urban Renewal Commission either, as far as I know.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Oh, after the meeting, was it?
I believe
I
after
see.
the fact,
I see. It wasn't before the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, which kind of raises an interesting point. Do we have anything more to say to the Urban Renewal Commission at this point? They already know there's concern about this in the short term. Do we want to go make a formal presentation now to the Urban Renewal Commission, or is the fact that they've seen our written recommendation good enough, and what we want to do now is follow through on the long-term aspect of this and start working with PRAC about a possible set of long-term guidelines or best practices?
Or both.
Or both. We could do one or both. Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking.
Yeah.
What is it we think we're trying to do?
Well, I think it sounds like a really good idea to present this, because then you know that they'll take time to go over it with us while we're presenting it. So,
I guess my recommendation
Yeah,
would be to go to PRAC,
mhm.
see if there's any interest.
Mhm.
There may be, there may not be. this may become something that slides into a recommendation for the next biennium budget to budget for and try and make as part of our work program for Parks and Rec or whoever's going to be responsible for doing it. If you have PrAC on board, it's a little bit easier to go to the URA.
That is
and
true.
Say, we think we have an idea here to work on this, but that's just my gut feeling. Instead of I tend to agree. It's like if we can get the advisory committees in agreement to go in a direction, makes it a little easier to have that conversation.
I tend to agree for a somewhat different reason. Having sat through that previous discussion with the Urban Renewal Commission, they aren't the people to have a very detailed discussion about the pros and cons of beaver management with. I mean, that's not the level at which they're looking at problems like land management. They're looking at a much bigger picture than that, I think. So, I tend to think to the degree we're going to be successful here, working with PrAC and developing a set of agreed on guidelines or best practices, and then handing those to city departments and to the Urban Renewal Commission is probably the path to success. I guess that's how it looks to me.
Yep.
All right.
It's my understanding that the Urban Renewal Commission did not really have any interest in pursuing the recommendations. Or is that too harsh a statement? Or
No, I think their position was, trying to get the deal done with. Why am I drawing a blank? Pacific Properties.
Well, I think that's a fair statement. It wasn't, after all, they hadn't even seen the recommendations at the time the discussion happened. So all they were saying was that they really weren't ready to get down in the weeds and that kind of thing. They were focused on something else. That's what I heard.
I think once again, and I know we've had this discussion about, who's doing it, who's maintaining it, who's going to be responsible for it. And they just didn't want to go there.
Well, if we're going to target PrAC with this, then don't we want to be a little more specific, not necessarily in the recommendation, but in a little transmittal note or something with it that.
I think we could revise this, dear members of PrAC.
Well, yeah, something that says we want to work with them on and possibly develop a joint set of guidelines or best practices.
And then maybe we'll just clean that up a little bit and just have the chair sign it as more of a introductory letter to go present to them. Does that seem reasonable? We'll keep this draft, but we'll just clean it up a little bit more as a memo to the PrAC or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll do it in memo form to PrAC from NRC if there's agreement to do this, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there is among the committee
Yes.
to forward this to PrAC.
Yes.
Okay.
And work with them. I'm aboard with that. Certainly.
Yeah. But
Okay, so let me talk with Scott Archer, see what their dates are, get it on agenda. So then I'll hold the URC until we have this discussion with PrAC.
yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, go ahead. What was next on the agenda was the goals, but
The work
That's
plan.
the work plan. So we're
Yeah.
we're continuing that.
Yeah.
So click through that.
Okay, and then says there's no new business, so. And then after that is the NRC member reports, if anyone.
Well, before we move on, should we go over one more time just to be sure we're all on the same page and it gets in the minutes of the meeting what we're doing with the work plan?
Okay.
We did. I grant you, we kind of summarized that already, but
Yeah.
But we
Maybe-
should state what we accomplished at the work session and what our
Exactly.
next step is.
Yeah.
just
Great
Yeah,
idea.
so that's
Great
the
idea.
meeting.
record, as it were.
Great. Okay.
Okay, let me make a quick stab at it. We took Tony's recommended, originally called goals, and fit them into our existing framework that was created by Bob Roth. And we're going to create a final draft to approve at the next meeting. Does that sound about right? Okay.
as I understood it, we were going to try to get out a working draft to all members in advance of the meeting.
Yes.
Hopefully, maybe a couple weeks
Yeah.
from now or something, so people have time to read it.
Yeah. it would-
I guess
and-
the one question I had was that, in what form, is there one product here, or are there two? Or is this form going to be the form, but it's going to get cleaned up a little bit? Or are we moving more towards something like this, where it says responsibility, action, action, responsibility two, action, action?
Yes.
I think the answer is if there's a
Good question.
use for both formats, both could be produced. I mean,
This
you argued
format is-
before that you liked simple. I
Right.
think for our purposes, we like the complicated, track the timeline, track the assignments, but it's just as easy to develop two as
Both.
one.
Yeah.
Both?
Well, which,
So
which
should-
product would you
I-
show the city commission?
See, to me, this
we
is
would have
what we're
the-
showing the commission.
Tony argued that before, and
Yeah.
I thought that made sense.
Yeah, because you should be able to create out of a database or spreadsheet even a more prettied up document than a spreadsheet to present to the city commission and so on.
So,
That should be quite doable.
so Ginger, were you going to take a whack at that? And then I guess when we have it, we'll just quickly change the titles
Yeah.
and put the activities in. So you'll do
Yeah.
this one.
I'm going to try to get it out by Friday.
And we'll take care of this one.
That's quick enough. Thank you.
Before we all forget.
If we don't see it, we'll start sending hate mail.
Yeah.
Okay.
To, member.
Okay. Now we can go on to our member reports if,
Well, before you get there, Pete, were you planning on talking about the land use application briefly?
Under staff
Well-
communications.
Oh, okay,
that's after this.
okay.
Okay. Okay, anybody have any reports?
I guess I have a quick one.
Okay.
3 minutes worth anyway. Dick and I, along with several members of the State's Fish Passage Task Force, did a tramp around Willamette Falls here about a week ago while lamprey were passing there. Looked at the new lamprey ramps were in. They're mounted on the stop logs that are along the dam crest, so we got a chance to look at those. They've covered them this year with a textured rubberized belting to give the lamprey a little better grip on the face of the ramp as they go up and over the crest. While we were there, the Grand Ronde tribe was also there collecting lamprey for their upriver relocation project to reintroduce lamprey or larger numbers of lamprey into the upper Willamette in the Middle Fork area. And we also tramped down into the covered part of the salmon fishway where the Warm Springs tribe has placed a lamprey trap where they're catching lamprey to tag and then release and then potentially recapture tag lamprey when those that use the fishway. And then they've also got, these are pit tags, electronically detectable tags, and so they also have pit tag detectors alongside each one of the lamprey ramps and up at that gate that's right at the crest at the upstream end of the falls too. So they're enumerating tagged lampreys as they go over all three of those spots. So we got a chance to see all that equipment and look at some of the lampreys that had been caught in the trap in the fishway. So good day, quite informative, and we were glad to see it all move ahead. And it also just emphasized to me one more time that when we get to the legacy project, the Blue Heron thing, and we really do potentially rewater 2 or 3 of those old rock channels that go underneath parts of the mill structure, that there's a very real possibility of incorporating lamprey passage into the design for that area too, which would be a pretty interesting stroke of business.
That would be really interesting.
So anyway, that's what Dick and I went up to.
Thanks.
Interesting.
It was a good tour.
Yeah, sounds like it. I know the Klickitat were up there catching lamprey too in the last couple of weeks.
There have been quite a few tribes up as part of the ODFW permit system.
Yeah.
The day we were there last Tuesday, it happened to be closed to subsistence collection, but there'd been subsistence collectors up there for several days before that.
Okay, I guess I could do a quick report on some of the hikes I've been leading. Most recent one was up to the Thunder Mountain Beatty Butte area, and I finally put 2 and 2 together and realized for the first couple of miles of that trail, you're walking over the ejecta from a massive volcano, and it's just pumice for a while, then debris flow with angular blocks, which means it was close to the vent. And then they, of course, removed something like 130 miles of road, and they just churned up the gravel. They didn't remove it. And it's turned into this massive wildflower garden where there's hundreds of yards of solid wildflowers,
Beautiful.
including ones from eastern Oregon that shouldn't be there. But they only position themselves in the hottest location up against a rock wall. So anyway, it was quite, to go back to a place that I've been going to for 25 or 30 years and find new things and realize new things was interesting.
Yeah. And you're continuing to lead those tours?
Yeah, there's one this Saturday and one next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's
Great.
the one this Saturday?
It's going through the 2 fires up in Bulla Woods Wilderness. It's going to be probably the last really long one I'm doing. It's 11 miles, but there's 1,075 feet of climbing and 3,375 feet drop because it's a car shuttle. Lots of downhill and lots of exposure because of the fire and the high elevation both. So, but it'll be a very good lesson on how high and mid elevation forests recover after a big burn. So,
Thanks. Okay. All right, for staff communications, currently we have one natural resource application, NR 1403. The comment period ends this Friday. What it is a rock armored outfall ditch that needs to be placed partially within the buffer area of an intermittent stream channel, which is mapped, and it's off of Leland Road. And the drainage for a subdivision is using that channel already, is going into it. So, but they needed to meet the stormwater standards, and they needed to improve the outfall. So the Natural Resource Overlay District has a standard for stormwater facilities and allows for them to be placed within the buffer zone, provided certain standards are met. And so the impact of that outfall is a square foot impact, and there's a square foot mitigation requirement that they need to plant adjacent to it with native species and clean it up. So that's what Natural Resource NR 1403 is all about. I'm not going to provide the details other than that.
Pete, it's on an unnamed tributary of Mud Creek, would it be?
Well, it drains sort of southward along Leland Road, south side of Leland Road, as you're about to leave the urban growth boundary. So, is that Mud Creek drainage?
I believe it would be,
Yeah,
where Mud
okay.
Creek flows
Yeah.
down the hill and then
And it's
enters Beaver Creek.
daylight on this portion of the property, and then adjacent properties it goes into pipes and things, and so that's why it's being reviewed here, is because it's in daylight. And I think it's been altered and channelized in years past, but
Yeah.
it's still regulated.
yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
was there some erosion due to the drainage without armoring?
That I don't know. Details of that are probably in the stormwater report that's part of the subdivision application. We can certainly provide you that information, but any comments you provide need to be to Kelly by Friday. So,
Yeah.
I know there's no one designated to do this kind of work yet, but this is a fairly small one. Yeah.
David Evans is reviewing that.
Right.
as well.
Sorry, I didn't mention that David Evans does review these for
Yeah.
the city, reviews what the applicant turns in, and provides recommendations, make sure that the standards in the NROD are met. The other one that's not on here because it came in and was completed right after the agenda went out, the Kenema Bluffs Trail and Overlook improvements have
Metro
been
project.
the Metro project has been deemed complete, and we'll be providing notice of that middle of next week. And I think the comment period is going to run until July 31st on that, and it will be a geologic hazard review for the Overlook area on the bluff, trail restoration work, and a couple of bridge crossings over the wetlands along with wetland delineations. So it's all part of the restoration, but they did have to delineate the edge of the existing wetlands so that we knew whether or not the footings of the bridges would have an impact in the buffer areas adjacent to them. So very detailed application for a restoration project, primarily site plan and design review for the Overlook, because they want it to be safe, and they are going to be drilling into the bluff where the rock is, and so that is a pretty extensive geologic and geotechnical review for that. And I'll be sending that along to you guys as well. Yeah.
I was on one of the early public meetings
Right,
on that,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
they said they're going to have to do a lot of that stuff, and
Yeah.
because there is a certain percentage of the cliff that's separated, and it's potentially could fail, and they have to build around that, and but I'm sure Metro has put a lot of thought into it, but I would like to see it.
Yes,
just,
definitely.
See what solutions they came up with.
And we'd love to get your feedback on that. We're doing a 300-foot notice area, and these are big tax lots, so it worked out to about 150 properties that are getting notices nearby. So, okay, so that's it for natural resource applications that we have right now. Let's see, the Lynn Avenue, Leland Myers Road Corridor Plan, we had a work session with the Planning Commission on that, and we are going to be taking that up to the Planning Commission for an initial public hearing on July 14th. And it'll probably be, and we're asking for a continuance because it's not a final draft yet. Also, we have the sanitary sewer master plan update process going on, which will be an extensive public hearing process, but we haven't provided notice of the first public hearings yet. We had a work session. Tony was there last night, so joint work session, Planning Commission, City Commission last night, and then once we figure out the dates for the hearings and that sort of thing, we'll be sending that around. And we also have a interim sewer moratorium policy for certain basins that have capacity flow issues that have been identified, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but
I saw that at the CIC meeting just this week. So
so that will affect the development potential of certain parcels that are identified in those basins, and we're doing an extensive notification, and Public Works Department has been doing a lot of analysis to figure out a fix for the capacity issues that they've identified, and it will be a long-term process of that. So we're going to be continuing to work through that with property owners and people who have questions in those areas.
Yeah, they were mentioning a guesstimate of 6 years to solve the issues,
Right.
and but also pointed out that the areas are mostly fairly well developed. There's little in the way of big parcels to subdivide that would be heavily impacted by this. But it could impact, redevelopment or
Redevelop,
lot
yeah.
divisions, things like that.
The big concern is division with the hospital.
Mm.
One of the basins that's impacted.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for staff communications and.
Just real
Go
quick
ahead.
on Willamette Falls Legacy Project on July 26th, it's a Saturday. We just sent out, started notifying today, we are going to do public tours again that Saturday morning before the festival starts. So we're going to be doing 9 tours during the day. You can go online, rediscoverthefalls.com. If you want to sign up, first come, first serve to get on there. So we're doing tours. I think it's at like 9, 10:30, and noon or so. So we'll be running 3 tours. Each one of those, so we'll probably be able to get through 90 to 110 probably through the site. But so people of interested who'd like to go out there, they tend to fill up pretty quick. So.
How do you sign up again? What was that?
You can go to rediscoverthefalls.com,
Oh,
our website, or you can give Kelly a call and she can email you information, Kelly Moosberger in our planning department, about it. So, like I said, that went out this afternoon about 4 o'clock. And they go quick. We're also still negotiating. We met with our partners group, which is the elected officials and the CEO from each of the public agencies, as well as George Heigerken, who's the gentleman who purchased the Blue Heron property. Right now, the proposal from staff is to focus on the catalytic project. Really, the first public investment is the Riverwalk, for multiple reasons, providing public access back to the falls, but also the redevelopment potential of that a public investment like that will bring to that property. So we're working on preparing a memorandum of understanding with the public agencies to start to identify responsibilities, goals as we negotiate with the property owner. We still have, we do have a hard deadline of March of 2015 in order to access the $5 million appropriation in the governor's budget for that project. So we need to start identifying those funding sources for that first design and engineering, which we put, probably about $4 million. So that's our goal right now. We've been negotiating with PGE for an access easement across their property, as well as we're beginning negotiations with Mr. Heigerken for access easement across his property. We anticipate to have a land use application from him signed, probably within the next 3 weeks. So then we'll begin that public hearing process, with hearings probably in, probably September, October-ish, by the time we get through Planning Commission and up to City Commission.
Out of curiosity, front-end loading the public access trail like this, how does that mesh with removing a lot of the old mill structures? Wouldn't that have to happen fairly early in the process?
I think that there's a couple ways, if we could include it in the project, let's say that we were able to get through the engineering and fund that project. Obviously if the easement's 100 feet wide, right, there would probably be targeted demolition of buildings that
Some
were
of the
in there.
demolition could be
Would
part
we,
of that project.
would we go and take something up against the railroad? Probably not. That'd be the property owner's responsibility to take that out.
But probably create a right-of-way or something.
Yeah, exactly. A kind of a work area, and so but until we get to that design step, but we fully anticipate that part of that, we put it about 30 million did include site prep, demo work, cleanup that was going to happen in order to build something new there.
I noticed, by the way, that one of the metro planners involved in the project is sending out contact information to a lot of folks relative to forming some sort of a citizens involvement group. Do you know anything about that?
Yep. So we were able to secure a Hatfield Fellow again. So actually, Kelly Moosberger, who works for me now, was a Hatfield Fellow through Metro originally on this project. She did the
economic impact. And so we were able to secure another Hatfield Fellow. And we've been looking at other models throughout the country, and a lot of them will have friends groups that can serve as the nonprofit arm for whether it be programming of the amenity or maintenance of the amenity, so that they can serve as a conduit for grant money that comes in, for the philanthropic money that comes in. There's obviously a better tax benefit to give it to a 501c3 than it is to give it to a government agency. Also utilizing that friends group to essentially, you recall we kind of were trying to create these champions for the project. So in this early phase, if we can set up this friends group that can serve, essentially as almost like a lobbying arm. If we can get a group put together that can start to go out and look for philanthropic investment, help us with grants, process or be the funnel for those grants. So we see it as a component to making this a successful public project. So we're sending out a survey. How would you like to be involved? Here are the 4 values. What's the theme? So just trying to get a flavor of what's the best way to create this friends group that will hopefully keep people engaged.
So it's still kind of open-ended what its role might be.
Right. So we're kind of trying to we're looking at examples and saying, okay, not only the, what role should they have, who should it be made up of, but then also, how do you get the paperwork, how do you get it done, how do you get it in place, those type of things as well. So not only the administrative part of it, but the actual setup of it is too.
I imagine the developers purchase the entire site, including what's going to be deeded to public use in the future?
Correct.
Okay.
What's the mechanism there then for right-of-ways for the public access you're talking about, but for a possible future park or whatever? Will that individual be asked to deed that land to others at some point in the process?
There's multiple ways to do that. The most straightforward way, is typical in a development is somebody dedicates the right-of-way, right? They build the road, dedicate the right-of-way. There are some times when, like for example, 213 is one of the only facilities in the state where this ODOT doesn't own the right-of-way. They didn't want to take ownership over the landfill, so it's in an easement. So you can get a public access way and get an easement over it where the property owner maintains ownership of the underlying property, but there's a public access easement granted to access for bike, ped, vehicle, emergency access on the top of it. So there's a couple ways to do that.
Yeah, who is the underlying landowner there?
The landfill?
Yeah,
Parker.
Parker still, okay.
Parker LLC.
Yeah, I
Family.
don't know what he's calling himself. Used to be Parker Northwest, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think that was a generation back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess there is one other question, and it's not related to that, but we're down 1 member, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
So what's the status on that?
we're going to put out a,
2 members?
pardon?
I just saw an email from Bob Roth.
Oh,
Yeah, we're down 2 now.
oh,
Okay.
all right. Well,
You just now saw it?
Yeah,
thank you to Bob for your service. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
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 Sorry to lose both of them.
Yeah. We put out advertisement for replacement for Shaw and Bob. Sorry to lose them both. And I talked to Nancy Ide today about what the preferred method of doing that is now, since previously we may still do this, is put an advertisement on our website and put out a press release. So we'll find out.
There was another
Yeah.
candidate that stepped forward.
Correct,
Maybe
yeah.
she would be interested again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can contact her.
Cynthia.
Yeah, and anyone else.
And the other thing is Pete will be sending you the volunteer appreciation picnic. It'll be down at the end of the Oregon Trail, so we will get you that invite here pretty soon, and the sticker for hopefully you can come for the dinner if you're available.
I have a meeting I've been attending for over 20 years that very night, but I might be able to be there long enough to grab a few bites.
Yeah.
Great.
Any former members of the NRC are welcome if you're out there.
Let me know, though.
What is the date?
Oh, gosh.
Drawing a blank. We just got them
If
last
Byron
night.
can't make it, I get his dessert.
Yeah.
We'll get it to you.
The big thing is that you got to get a sticker. Otherwise
Yep, we have your stickers.
You have to have your sticker.
Yeah, I already got one, but you can send me another one.
You hoarding them? Selling them?
Fuck.
Scalp them at the door?
Those things are worth money.
Yeah, oh yeah. Sure, I'm a volunteer. I just paid $10 for this. Do you have a question?
I know I'm out of order, but could I be prepared to make just a short statement in regard to one of the issues that was brought up?
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Bob LaSalle with Oregon City, and I found out that information about those lampreys was very, very interesting. And I'd like to suggest that one or both of you put together an article for the Trail News for that.
Oh, good idea.
Because a lot of people don't know about the efforts that have been done to help those lamprey survive. And also about I never heard about the Native Americans, what they're doing down there. So I'd like to suggest maybe you do that. I think a lot of people would be interested.
Would that be something that Catherine might?
I was going to say, I could work with Catherine on that. As you probably all know, Catherine's on the Watershed Council and also fairly knowledgeable about lamprey biology and management. So I could follow through with her probably on developing some kind of a little couple of paragraph thing. if
The
it were
turnaround is really quick, though. So we will send you.
I think it got extended to July 15th.
Yeah, because it was
For the
it was
submittals.
this Friday, so the submittals will have to be in pretty quick. So we will shoot you those dates if you can hit
Sure.
it.
Just a blurb.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe
Give me the
and
info and
and
I'll
pictures
know
too.
right away. If I
Yeah.
mean, if it can't happen, it can't happen. But
Yeah,
we'll try to see if we can't pull something quickly together.
great.
You might
Tony, I
explain.
already have my ticket for the tour.
Well, good, because I was going to send you to John Lewis, because I don't have your number.
And last year I had five hearts for the volunteer appreciation dinner, but they would only feed me one.
Who's auditing that?
Okay.
All right, future agenda items. We'll be revisiting our work plan
Yes.
for adoption, hopefully. Anything else?
We had the Beaver letter to go over
Yep.
everything. And I need the contact information for PRAC
Okay.
again. And we should be contacting them on more than just this. So
Should we schedule a work session prior to the meeting again to start fleshing out the document, look at it more fully?
Sure.
That would
Together?
be.
Which document?
The one that I'm going to send out on Friday.
we
Or
can,
do we want to wait and decide that after looking at the document and decide if we need to get together?
let's decide once we've seen it, see
Okay.
if it looks like it needs a lot of revision or if it's fairly close.
Okay,
Does that sound okay?
yeah.
Sounds fine to me. I mean,
Sounds
if
good.
it works out here, if you get relatively minor comments back on a first round of review, and we can incorporate all those, then I think we can
Okay,
Yeah.
call it good.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's make it
yeah.
simple.
I think the value in the work session, however, might be to flush out a little more of the information, the specifics, if you want to do that, So, kind of depends on how you want to handle it,
Yeah. Well,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah. I'd like to take a look at it and make a decision at that point because we could still call a work session.
On this business
Yes,
of
she's talking
fleshing
about
out the
Friday.
tasks too. I'm the one who's real keen on assigning a lead committee member or maybe a couple as appropriate, and then for those people who are designated as the leads, those are the obvious folks to fill in all
Oh,
those
good
other
call.
boxes.
Yeah.
Good idea.
For
Good
that
idea.
particular activity.
Right.
That's true.
Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to adjourn the meeting then.
Oh.